Thank you, Oscar. Morning and welcome all to this meeting of Subject Overview and Scrutiny Committee 2, which is being convened as a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed subsequently. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing it either from the Council Chamber, Civic Offices, Angel Street, Bridgend, or from remote locations. Should I, as Chair, experience any technical difficulties during the meeting, Councillor Alan Wathen will step in and take over temporarily as Chair in my absence. And in his absence, then Councillor Ross Penhale-Thomas will step in. Please can everyone ensure that mobile phones are switched off or switched to silent mode, please. And members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and I will ask officers to present a brief summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda will be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers are reminded to refer to the page numbers contained in the public version of the agenda report pack. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch on their microphones at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you keep your microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference. However, as a trial measure, I would invite members and officers to leave their cameras on for the duration of the meeting so we can see your lovely, lovely faces. Whether attending in the chamber or remotely, if any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should click the raise hand icon at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in order that I receive the requests. If you are in the chamber, please switch on the microphone on your desk and speak directly into the microphone to allow those who are remote to hear you clearly. Please lower your hand once you've finished speaking. The instant messaging chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone. Sorry, my apologies. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Scrutiny will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout its duration, and where necessary will mute those that are not being used. I'll ask officers to introduce themselves when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones are switched off when not in use. I will now proceed to the agenda. Item number 1, apologies for absence. I will now ask the Scrutiny Officer to announce the apologies for the absences received.
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies for absence from Councillor Eugene Caparos, Councillor Dave Harrison, and Councillor Joanne Llewellyn-Hopkins, and Councillor Penhale-Thomas indicated that he may need to leave the meeting early. We've also received apologies from Councillor Jane Gebby, the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Social Services and Health, and Lindsay Harvey, Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, and Nicola Achanis, Head of Education and Family Support. Thank you.
Councillor Davis, can I bring you in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll be leaving the meeting early as well, Chair, due to work commitments. Okay, 12:30, remember that mark. Thank you.
No problem. Claire?
Yeah, Lindsay Harvey is hoping to join the meeting. Unfortunately, Nicola Achanis is unwell this morning, so Lindsay's rearranging his diary to hopefully link into the meeting. I've just sent him the link now.
Item number 2, declarations of interest. If any... Oh, sorry. Sorry.
That's all right, Chair. Thank you. No, it's just to say, obviously, Claire's pointing out, I think Lindsay's just joined us, but also we have Mark Lewis as well, who's joined us as well. So hopefully we should have a full attendance of education officers. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest. If any member has an interest to declare in any matter on the agenda, please click the raised hand icon, and I will come to you in turn for your declaration of interest. Any declarations, please? Lovely. Thank you very much. Item number 3, approval of minutes. Please can I have a mover and a seconder for each set of the minutes? So 8th of December 2022, can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Yes, I move, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wathen. Seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And then moving on to the minutes from the 18th of September, can I have a mover, please?
Move again, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wathen. And a seconder, please.
Second again, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Lovely. Moving on. Just before we do, can I possibly just make a quick announcement? And I'd like to just say and send my personal condolences to the family and the colleagues of Samantha Kemp, who has sadly passed away. She was one of our members of staff at Social Services, and I know that she's been a friend to a lot of people, both here and online, that are meeting here today. So I just wanted to pass my sincere condolences on to her family, her friends and her work colleagues, please. So thank you very much. Moving on. Item number 4, joint inspection of the child protection arrangements in Bridgend for the 12th to the 16th of July 2023. I will ask the officer to briefly introduce the report. I will then call upon members who indicate they wish to speak by clicking on the raise hand icon in turn. Claire, can I bring you in, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Would you like me to introduce partners who are joining us this morning? So it's a pleasure, I think, to present for you this morning the joint inspection of child protection arrangements in Bridgend and the resulting report from...
Sorry, I think somebody might have their microphone open because we can hear singing rather bizarrely. So if we can just all make sure that we've got our microphones switched off, please. Thank you.
It was quite joyous, actually, wasn't it?
I've never heard that singing.
So to start again, so it's with pleasure that I introduce this morning the joint inspection of child protection arrangements in Bridgend, the outcome of an inspection undertaken by Care Inspectorate Wales, Healthcare Inspectorate Wales, Estyn and His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, Fire and Rescue Services. We'll use the acronyms for the rest of the meeting if that's all right, but I'll say in full first. So this was very much a joint inspection between 4 inspectorates about how effectively we protect and safeguard children in Bridgend. And in accordance with that, we've got senior colleagues here from education and social services within the local authority and from South Wales Police and the Health Board. So perhaps I'd just ask Superintendent Clayton.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name's Clayton Ritchie, Detective Superintendent for Safeguarding for South Wales Police. I'm responsible for the safeguarding operations for our footprint, the South Wales footprint, which covers 7 local authorities.
And could I ask Claire O'Keefe to introduce herself and colleagues from Cwmtaf Maganac University Health Board, please?
Thanks, Lee. My name is Claire O'Keefe. I'm Head of Safeguarding for Cwmtaf Maganac Health Board. So obviously the operational safeguarding practice across all 3 regions, which includes Bridgend. My colleague Andrea Bevan is here from our Children and Families Care Group. So if it's okay, Chair, I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Andrea Bevan. I'm the Senior Nurse for Health Visiting within Cwmtaf, and I'm representing the Head of Nursing for Children and Young People today.
And obviously, Chair, you've got myself as Corporate Director for Social Services and Wellbeing and Lindsay Harvey as the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, and our colleagues here who you know quite well in the chamber and online this morning. We're also joined by the lead inspector for the whole JICPA from Care Inspectorate Wales, Vanwy Moran. And I think we're also joined by a colleague from Estyn this morning, and I think both of the inspectors are here in an observation capacity rather than to take questions. I think that's correct, isn't it, Vanwy?
Thanks, Claire. That is correct. Bore-da pawb. I'm Vanwy Moran, as Claire said, from the local authority inspection team in Care Inspectorate Wales. But I'm more than happy if there are any specific queries to answer them or to take them back and answer them. So yeah.
Right. Thank you, Vanwy. So just to introduce the report very briefly, as the chair has requested. As I've already said, this is very much a joint inspection into the effectiveness of our child protection and safeguarding arrangements. I think from a partnership perspective, from a regional safeguarding board perspective, this report has many positives for us in Bridgend and across the Cwmtaf Maganac region, in terms of the leadership of safeguarding across the region, in terms of having a very clear vision for safeguarding and working together effectively to safeguard and protect children as partners. The context for this joint inspection is very well known, I think, to committee, but it's worth repeating that we had seen as partners an exponential increase in contact and demand into our safeguarding services here in Bridgend, and that continues, I would say, at our front door through our multi-agency safeguarding hub. But we were well served by the fact that we've got a multi-agency safeguarding hub and that we had put in place arrangements as partners, both operationally and strategically, to work together to best manage that demand. But it is clear, and the report does say, that this increase in demand is impacting on all partners, particularly in terms of workforce and in terms of the resources available to assign to safeguarding activity when there are so many other pressures and demands on public services. In summary, then, I think the report shows excellent practice in safeguarding in education in the county borough, improved performance in children's social care, following on from the two single inspectorate inspections of children's services in the county borough, and good performance across the health board and South Wales Police as well. But obviously areas for improvement for all agencies as well. Remarkably good quantitative performance, given that increase in demand and complexity, which is noted within the report, and more work to do, I would say, in terms of the variability of quality of work, and that's been highlighted and is driving the action plan that's been put in place. The immediate response to safeguarding concerns is good and safeguards children, where there are some more gaps and variability in the ongoing care planning thereafter. In terms of improvement, we've worked together as multi-agency partners and will report through to the Regional Safeguarding Board to develop the action plan that is here this morning. And I would say in advance of questions that we're already making good progress on key elements of that action plan. And one that I would particularly highlight is around the implementation of the GOS system, which is a multi-agency safeguarding system, which I need to pay credit to colleagues in Rhondda and Taff Council, because they've led the development of that system, and that really is helping us to make sure we've got effective information sharing at the front door. I'll pause there, Chair, because I could run through the whole report, which I know you don't want me to, but myself and partners are obviously very happy to take detailed questions.
Thank you, Claire. I think that's a really fair assessment, actually, from reading what I've read there, so thank you very much. I'm just going to bring Jess in with a statement from the Cabinet Member for Social Services, because unfortunately she can't be with us today. There's a clash of meetings, so if you want to read that statement out, please, Jess.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from what the Chair said, yeah, we've received a written statement from the Cabinet Member for Social Services and Health, who is unable to be with us today, so I'll read out what I've received. Dear members, firstly, apologies for not attending in person, but I'm on council business elsewhere in an all-Wales finance seminar, and considering the financial challenges that we face here in the council, I felt it prudent to prioritise knowing that you have many experienced officers from the organisations inspected with you today to undergo scrutiny. The JICPA, Joint Inspection of Child Protection Arrangements in Bridgend, is a valuable tool for us that we can utilise to show where improvements have been made since our previous inspections, what still needs to be improved, the challenges we continue to face in recruitment and retention, which is a slow-moving but improving picture. Our practice model, Signs of Safety, is slowly being implemented across all our children's teams, and with better analysis of our children's support needs being evidenced in practice recordings, and better demonstrating the positive partnership working and the relationships between families and professionals, but we need to do more. Welsh Government has acknowledged that key information between partners is not shared in a timely way, some of which is down to the challenges of different information systems between organisations, which do not interact well together, and there are gaps in recording information in different organisations. The standard of recordings needs to be improved significantly and is too generic to be of value. BCBC continues to make significant improvements in children's services despite the increase in demand and complexity of cases. When looking at our performance indicators, it's very evident to see the improving picture here in Bridgend, which could not have been achieved without the continuing support of council members. We still have too many missed opportunities within our safeguarding lead organisations to share pertinent information, and the focus for care is an adult agenda rather than that of the views of the child. Professionals within organisations external to the Council are struggling to resource the activities in the Child Protection Forum, noticeably health and police colleagues, but the action plan developed in response to the JICPA identified specific actions to address some of these concerns to ensure that the right resource at the right time is received within all agencies to ensure the protection from harm for children and their families, with reviews of practice being or have been undertaken, and with clear, focused and joined-up thinking between partner agencies. You will have seen that from BCBC's first inspection to now that various policies and procedures have been refreshed and renewed, going through scrutiny in various forms before being formally adopted by Cabinet or Council, and the ongoing engagement within our teams to review pathways so that families can access the right support at the right time, reducing any delays. There is a change in practice, as referenced above, and all workforce surveys in social services, whether run internally or independently, has shown us that they feel more valued and supported in a very dynamic and demanding service and managing the increase in demand and complexity exceptionally well. I am exceptionally proud of the work that our social services staff undertake on a daily basis, often at the sharp end of crises that our residents are faced with, and sincere thanks go to all of Children's Services for their dedication and commitment to the children and their families of the County Borough. As always, should any member have any questions for me, please get in touch. And again, my apologies for not attending in person, and hopefully we'll understand my attendance elsewhere, considering the debates and discussions around finance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you, Councillor Gebbie. Right, so I'm going to take our members through the report, and I'm going to take us through page by page because, quite frankly, it's quite a meaty report, so I don't want anyone to miss an opportunity to ask a question having read the report. So we'll do it that way, just for expediency. First off, I'm going to bring in Councillor Ross Penhale-Thomas at the head of the report just to ask a question about contentment. So if I can bring you in, please.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks very much, Chair. Thanks, Claire, and thanks, Jess, for the statement from the Cabinet member. I think that rounds it off really well. Welcome the report, welcome the way it's laid out in terms of the strengths and the areas for improvement, very useful for members to see where we're headed. And including the action plan as well. And can I just welcome some of the significant areas of strength. I think it's really good to see some of the partnership working that's ongoing, really pleasing for members. Needless to say, in any inspection, there will always be areas for improvement, and I think they're well set out and well documented. And great to see partners here with us today. So obviously we've got South Wales Police and the Health Board. Can I ask those partners, including the local authority, whether they feel that the assessment carried out and the outcome of the inspection is a fair and accurate assessment? And in particular, were there any areas of concern that were brought to your attention that perhaps you weren't aware of? And I'm probably thinking those areas for improvement. Are they what you thought they were? Or are there other items that have been identified that you possibly weren't aware of? Thanks, Chair.
Shall I start, Chair? I would say that we welcomed the report. From a local authority perspective, we felt it was very accurate in terms of our own self-assessment that we completed prior to the inspection. As multi-agency partners, we gave inspectors a very detailed presentation on the first morning, and that really was setting out our own self-evaluation. And I would say both the strengths and the areas for improvement and pressures recognise what we told joint inspectors. But that's from a local authority perspective. I'll let other partners answer from their perspectives.
Yep, if I can bring in South Wales, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. Absolutely, a very balanced report. No surprises there. These topics, such as the workforce pressures that are alluded to within the report, are well discussed at the Regional Safeguarding Board level as well, and have been subject to focus. But the report obviously give us further focus, I suppose, on and allowed us to develop quite a sort of a honed action plan to see those improvements in the areas mentioned in the report. But yeah, very balanced, but no surprises, I believe.
Thank you. Claire, can I bring you in from Cumtaff, please?
Yes, thank you. I will say we were very reassured. There weren't any surprises, thankfully. Some of the difficulties, some of the improvements had already been identified, and we'd already started progressing with an action plan. I guess one of the difficulties it did throw up for us was gathering the information, which I suppose, opened our eyes to how difficult it is collecting information to make sure that we safeguard children with the multiple systems in the Health Board. And fortunately, that has been escalated on a national level now, with Welsh Government and Public Health Wales being made aware. We're not the only health board, but I think it certainly did flag up some of the difficulty that practitioners might have when they're working with children and young people and being able to get a holistic view of that child's needs. It certainly is something that will need, I think, further scope moving forward for us.
Thank you. Yes, I think you're right there. There were some items highlighted there. So, Lindsay, can I bring you in, please?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Tom. I think it's a really important question, actually, because it's important that we reflect upon these experiences as an organisation. I would certainly echo what colleagues have said. I believe it was a challenging, robust process. It was undertaken extremely professionally. It was sensitively organised as well, due to the wide range of services that we provide within my directorate. But again, from the sessions we've had with my team following the inspection, it's been very positively received, and all the interactions with inspectors in all the regulatory bodies were extremely professional and well received.
Thank you. Councillor Penhale-Thomas, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I think it's a really good starting point that we're all reading from the same report, which we consider all of us to be fair and accurate. So that's great. Yeah, cheers.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Thank you. So, taking us from page 15 and page 16, which I don't think we've got any questions on unless any member has any. Can I take us to page 17, please? And the first question I've got is from Councillor Alan Wathen, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions in relating to paragraph 3.4, if I could. First of all, thank you for the report and the action plan. It's most informative. Paragraph 3.4, it states challenges in sharing information between agencies in the multi-agency safeguarding hub. Has the challenges in sharing information been improved? That would be my first question. And then the second question relates to immediate actions that taken to promote children's safety, but there can be gaps. Have the gaps been identified and have they been plugged? Then he goes on to say the quality of care and support protection plans is too variable. What has been done to address this? And finally, there are gaps in recording and supervision which need to be addressed by managerial oversight. Has this managerial oversight been rectified? Those are my couple of questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There's a lot of questions there. So I think, who am I coming to? Is it Dave? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. In terms of the first point around the challenges in information sharing, we've done a lot of work with regional partners around the implementation of our GOS system. So this is a computer system which enables partner agencies to upload the information specifically in relation to a child or a young person that they hold, and that enables us then to discuss that within our strategy meetings to inform next steps and actions. That was something that has been highlighted in previous inspections that wasn't working as effectively as we needed to. So the implementation of that system certainly enables us now to kind of share that information in a much more timely way and a considered way, and also record the actions and the decisions that are made from within that forum and that discussion. So we see that as an improving kind of picture. It's very early in terms of the implementation for us in Bridgend, but certainly the feedback that we've had from regional partners in Rhondda and Taff and Merthyr is that this is a much more effective computer system to assist us with some of that social work and child protection practice then. In terms of the quality of care and support plans and kind of the focus being on adults, as committee will be aware, we've implemented a lot of work around our signs of safety framework at this point, which is very much about identifying what works for children and families, what's not working, what we're worried about, and what steps and actions do we need to take. And ultimately, that model really puts emphasis on the specific kind of issues and the specific concerns for that child, and then what support we need to put in place for that child as well then. So again, we see that as a real supportive kind of framework to assist us in improving our practice, and very much putting the emphasis on the child in terms of what they need from us and from services that are available then. So again, very early in terms of the support and the implementation of that model, but we're already seeing some green shoots in terms of that. And again, how we work with our partner agencies around the implementation of that model. So there's consistency and understanding around the framework and how we all work together in terms of it. Around the final point in terms of supervision and the gaps there, we did implement a new policy back in March of this year, and what the inspection highlighted to us is that hasn't been embedded consistently as of yet. So there's more work for us to do around that agenda. So we're very much working with our policy officer within the local authority to re-establish that new policy, the supervision policy, make sure managers are very much aware of the kind of expectations within that policy, the frequency in terms of where supervision is held and how we undertake our supervision kind of work with practitioners. We've done a lot of work around our intranet really to make this more accessible to staff as well within the local authority, so it's easier to be accessed. And again, we're doing a lot of work around promotion and the continuing ongoing promotion of that policy as well with team managers to look at that being embedded more effectively. And then finally, to look at whether that's having any level of impact, we are then auditing the kind of use of that supervision policy and the supervision records to determine whether that change and that kind of adaptation that we've made within our practice is actually making a difference in terms of the implementation of the new policy. I'll pause there. I think there's quite a bit, and then I can see Laura's got her hand up as well then.
Thank you. If I can bring you in, Laura.
Hi. The other couple of things I suppose I wanted to mention as well, that Dave talked about the GOS system, so that's an information sharing system or portal. But I think what we're also really lucky to have in Bridgend really is a very, sort of well-populated co-location arrangement as well in terms of our multi-agency safeguarding hub. We've got all the partners who were involved in this inspection are co-located, their staff are co-located in Ravenscourt in Bridgend, and I think we're quite unique in that respect. While some other areas in Wales do have multi-agency safeguarding hubs, I don't think they're as well populated, if you like, by partners as ours is. So I think that is a safety net then in terms of if we don't necessarily share information as efficiently and effectively as we'd want to on our systems, we've got that safety net of doing it face to face as well, and similarly of being able to challenge one another if we think there are issues about the robustness of our inquiries, etc., in relation to individual children. From a local authority perspective as well, Dave mentioned at the end audit activity, and I just wanted to confirm as well that we now have a quality assurance officer in post as well, who's obviously it's a dedicated role, and one of the things she's prioritising really is to ensure that we drive forward our routine programme of audit activity in relation to individual cases and the quality of services and plans that children are receiving. But one thing she's already done is started to undertake some audit of supervision activity across the teams as well, and so that would be really helpful because it's independent, objective audit activity of the supervision our social workers are receiving in all our respective teams.
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to bring Claire in and then Clayton. Sorry. Would you like to come in after? Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose just from a partnership perspective, we actually cover both MASH, both the multi-agency safeguarding hubs, and actually the co-location, just to echo what Laura said, it works really, really well for us. But also we welcome the GOS system. We've worked with the sharing information platform for a number of years in our second MASH or the outcome TAF MASH. So actually the implementation of that will definitely provide, I guess, a lot of reassurance then that we've got a really good system that shares information that everybody has access to. And we know that that's evidence to work really well. And just in terms of care and support plans, our local authority colleagues have ensured the health have been invited to some of those signs of safety training sessions. We've managed to get our health colleagues onto that training and making sure that the development of those care and support plans is multi-agency led. So we make sure that from all aspects that our child's needs are looked at and making it less of an adult focus, but also being a joint responsibility in the development of that as well and the oversight of it.
Thank you. Clayton, thank you.
Yes, as I explained in the introduction, I cover 7 areas, 7 local authorities and front doors for those. You should be incredibly proud of what you've achieved in Bridgend MASH. It is unique to the extent of which there's co-location with all partners there, with that being, the full complement for the entire week of all the key partners and statutory partners. That is not the case elsewhere. With that, I see another strength within Bridgend MASH is the ability to have differences of opinion and that professional challenge, and that again is really healthy within Bridgend MASH, supported by a formal process the CRISP process, it's called, the escalation process. And what we see is that we're able to monitor that, sort of those differences, pick up on themes and explore. But I think relationships are really healthy, and that really does underpin, aside to the technological provision and capabilities that GOS provides, it provides for a healthy working environment which can only help for outcomes for children.
Thank you for that. I'm really heartened actually to hear about the CRISP process, because it's part and parcel of a question that we've got coming up for you. So in part you've answered it already, so thank you. I'm going to bring Councillor Ross Penhale-Thomas in, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think we touched in quite some detail there on supervision, and you'll be aware that I had a question further on. So if I could just sort of bring that in now. I'm quite assured actually by the responses in particular from Dave and from Laura. If you pop to page 36, there's clearly an action there. Supervision lacks critical analysis, reflection, and a focus on individual staff's learning and development needs. Having spoken to a former senior social worker who's retired, and I'll admit in this forum it was my mum, I'm told that there's a concept in particular for new and much younger social workers when there is a really complex, challenging, and potentially very difficult case. There's a concept of freeze, potentially an inability to see what can be done because the case is so complex, but that support that's needed behind the scenes. So I'm wondering, is supervision a particular issue with newer and perhaps younger, less qualified, less experienced social workers, where perhaps we need to have a better focus? We discussed in previous scrutiny meetings growing our own and ensuring that there's that sense of professional curiosity that's grown as well in terms of the experience of younger social workers. So is that a particular issue, and is that something that we are focusing on to ensure that we continue to retain staff, that they feel valued, they have the supervision that they need, they have the development of professional curiosity, they remain with us, and then they are able to sort of tackle and challenge what are some pretty horrific cases, no doubt. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Who would like to take that? Dave? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Penhale-Thomas. Supervision is absolutely critical for our staff, in particular for our newly qualified staff as well, to recognise the issues that you've highlighted and the complexity of the kind of work that they undertake there then. So the work we're doing through that supervision policy is absolutely key, and it does enable and slow things down a lot in terms of the conversation and the discussions that we're having with staff around the cases that they're working with. I think to come back to the point around signs of safety and that framework and how we do our work directly with children and families, that model is very much about slow thinking, slowing the pace down in terms of the decisions that we're making and the actions that we need to take. Very much thinking about what's going on for this child, what is working within that for that child and within their family network, what are we worried about, and then what steps do we need to take there then. And it very much teases out what is the existing strengths within children and families, the harm that's kind of available, the danger that child potentially is facing, and then what is it that family members can do to assist, and then what do we as partner agencies can do to kind of respond and address some of those concerns. So that framework and how we tease that out within our supervision sessions are absolutely key, and that enables and supports our staff very much around that. In addition to that, one of the things we've also introduced within Bridgend more recently is around what we term case consultations. So when cases are becoming more problematic, more challenging and more concerning, and where we're starting to see the need maybe for further intervention from the local authority in terms of care proceedings, we introduce a case consultation where a senior manager then would meet with the team manager and with the social worker, and again unpick that case and really focus on that signs of safety model, and again really revisit what is working and what steps we need to take. We see that as a really supportive kind of approach for staff within the local authority at this moment in time. We really see that as more work for us to do for the reasons that you've alluded to. We recognise that we have got a young workforce in some respects in terms of social work experience, but this approach in terms of the signs of safety model, the supervision policy, case consultations, teamwork as well being a key aspect, because again we know with COVID where we've moved to kind of hybrid work, people working from home, some of that team dynamic and that team support has kind of moved, is absolutely critical really to supporting staff And then my final point then is coming back to a little bit around what Clayton touched on and Claire really, certainly in terms of our multi-agency safeguarding hub, having those partner agencies within that room and within that space to really have that discussion across the table in terms of what we're worried about and those concerns and how we can work together and share information, again, really supporting and assisting staff in terms of implementing how we want to work in partnership to reduce the risk to children and families.
Thank you. Laura, can I bring you in?
Sorry, it's not on this matter actually. Sorry, Chair. Please can I step out to deal with an urgent matter that I've had a Teams message about, and I'll rejoin the meeting as soon as I can.
That's
Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Councillor Penhale-Thomas, does that satisfy your question?
If I can just very quickly come back, case consultations. I think that sounds like a really positive step forward. Is that a new addition to what we do, and is that, as I'm guessing, as a direct result of some issues that have been identified as a way of supporting and adding to that supervision there? So it's something that we've seen that we can improve, and we're using case consultations to make those improvements. Yeah.
That's correct, Councillor Thomas. We see that as a supportive layer really to team managers and to staff, and also ensure us as a local authority that when we are making decisions on children and families that they are as safe and as robust as they possibly can be.
Content?
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Lovely, thank you. Moving on, but it's sort of related as well, onto page 18. At the top there on the second paragraph, we have challenges remaining in sharing information between agencies in the multi-agency safeguarding hub MASH. It is envisaged a new IT platform will address this. So I actually have a question on this. Given that budgets across the board are stretched, and I mean, that's an understatement, let's be honest, the cost of implementing a new IT platform, is that going to be prohibitive to the agencies? But equally as well, I'm aware that, obviously we had the WCCIS system before, which had its issues as well. I'm being polite. How are we going to transfer this information? Are we transferring the information from WCCIS into a new system? How's that going to look? How's that going to happen? Will we envisage that being a smooth transfer as well? And how long term do we envisage a new IT system actually being? Will it be as short as WCCIS? Will it, hopefully it won't be, but what's the issues that we see around that, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe best place to answer to a degree, but don't ask me any technical questions, please. I was around when the conversation around the expiry of MHub. So MHub was a system that did facilitate that sharing of information between agencies. To be frank, it was quite expensive. It was not overly user-friendly, and that really was a genesis of conversations that started about 3 years ago into what we'd have to replace that system. So we put out for commission. We did do a lot of scoping nationally for some options, but we actually found that colleagues within another local authority just north of here, their skill set and what they were able to bring to the table actually was quite excellent. So we set down exactly what we needed as agencies. What was it that we wanted? And they went away and designed that around us. And I'll come to the best bit in a minute. So that system is designed at the point of, after the point of referral has been made, and for us to facilitate information sharing between agencies. It doesn't replace any computer system. So one of the strengths of, obviously, of co-location we've discussed, but one of the drawbacks are we all use very different computer systems. So in the police, we use PNC, Niche, use WICIS. In fact, local authorities use different systems. So we wanted something to facilitate and bridge the gap of information sharing. And that's exactly what GOS did. It's been shaped around workshops conducted with practitioners. So practitioners designed it. So we talked about the transfer of information from GOS back to systems. It's been designed and the templates are there for it to be easily lifted and transported back onto the systems. And so far, the feedback is, and I can say it's quite unique when you introduce a new IT system, has been really positive because it's been designed by the people that are going to be using it. And I said I'd leave the best bit to last. As far as I am aware, I haven't had a bill for it. So it's cost us nothing because it's designed by a local authority, a lot of goodwill. There will be some costs, no doubt, but even responding to, as you'd expect, implementation of any system, there have been a few hiccups. They've responded dynamically, quickly, and fixed those within 24 hours. Previous arrangements with a third-party provider, for example, of mHub, that would have cost us money just to identify what the problem was, let alone fix it. So it's been a really excellent cost saving. Some problems still exist within the IT, the infrastructure, particularly for South Wales Police, and it's mentioned within the report there. But again, that is being solutions that have been explored as I talk, really. So a real positive, I think, Gosses.
Fantastic. Sorry, just to clarify, you said there that it's obviously been no cost to yourselves, but there's a cost to the local authority. No, how does that work? Sorry, I'm confused.
So we all contribute to the Regional Safeguarding Board, and the Regional Safeguarding Board at the moment are maintaining that cost. And what we see, such as a benefit of having that system, such as savings of not having mHub, I think a local authority north of here has provided its staff free of charge, and they've designed a system. So I have no doubt, we will incur costs over time, and then maybe there'll be improvements, but it's a vast saving on the contributions made previously to the Regional Safeguarding Board for mHub.
That's good to hear that collaborative working there is working really well as well. So, and it's always good to hear a positive story. Ross, I'm just going to bring Claire in first, if that's okay. Fabulous, Claire.
Yeah, just for clarification, really, the local authority north of here is Rhondda and Taff, and I'm sure they won't mind having some positive feedback. And the inspectors did observe that the system hadn't been implemented at the time that the inspection took place, but the inspectors did observe it and were positive following those observations. What it doesn't do is to replace the case management system. So you mentioned WCCIS. Chair, the niche system in the police, the multiple systems which Claire O'Keefe referred to earlier that the Health Board operate. So we do still have separate case management systems. So this is very much a system about information sharing right at that front door in terms of those initial safeguarding processes. It's right and proper that I continue to advise committee that WCCIS continues to be a challenge for us from a case management perspective. When we talk to practitioners regarding the implementation of the science of safety model of practice, it's one of the things they don't take long to tell us that the system is getting in the way. So it is right and proper, and in due course there will be re-procurement of an alternative system to replace WCCIS.
Thank you, Claire, and that is noted for future reference. Thank you. Councillor Penhale-Thomas, I'll bring you in.
Thanks, Chair. Clayton's answer is probably the most positive answer in the history of all answers on IT systems. So it's really good to hear, because that sentence, challenges remain in sharing information between agencies, wouldn't really look odd in any report. It's not unique to social services or safeguarding. It could be in any report. On any public sector topic, really. It seems for members something of deja vu, and it's always been that circle that we've been unable to square. So I'm going to ask you I've got two questions. One is probably impossible to answer. Is this the information system, the information sharing system, to end all questions around information sharing systems, whereby we're not going to have reports possibly in the future to say challenges remain in sharing information between agencies? And we know the seriousness of what happens when information isn't shared. Children, in particular in this circumstance, and in other circumstances, fall between the gaps, and that can lead to some serious consequences. So is this the information system to end all discussion on problems with information systems? And then can I just ask, just for an example, an example about how the information sharing system might be used. So can you just take us through an example of where a child is accessing social services, how it might be best used? Thanks. Cheers, Jeff.
Thank you. I'll bring Clayton in on this one. Thank you.
So you had the positive part of my answer, and now the next, no. That's because no computer system or IT system will replace. So I ran an event down in another regional safeguarding board where we presented 5 child practice reviews, and you're absolutely right, Councillor. A common theme and a thread throughout was the failure to share information. That relies more than on an IT system, which we've got with GOS. It relies on matters such as we've discussed professional curiosity, actually exploring and getting the information in the first place, understanding the voice of a child, listening to other practitioners, challenging. It relies on really good relationships and understanding of what information is important and when and where it should be shared. So I think that will always be a journey. I think with particularly a young workforce that's been alluded to, which I think across the public sector we're experiencing, training and focus on this area is going to be really important. What GOS does, and then I'll give you the example of how that works, is gives you a clear audit of when a concern, when that professional curiosity and that understanding of risk is there. An alert is put on a system, a referral is put onto GOS, and an alert set to key partners. That allows partners then to interrogate their system. So again, just sitting here, I was thinking of, probation may have Delius, Paris for health and other systems, and every statutory authority has a different system. Allows them to interrogate that system and then put the relevant information to the individuals that are referenced in that referral. So if we talk about myself, it would be we have a concern for Clayton Ritchie, then each agency has the opportunity then to provide an update that referral and that system. And again, the human element is really important, because what that does is facilitate conversation. In these cases, it would be called a strategy discussion. Now, it's how robust we are, what relationships we have, how willing we are to challenge other people is really important in our conversation. So GOS it facilitates these conversations, but it doesn't replace them. We're, I'm sure, a long way off, decades off, AI doing that job for us. So it's really important to understand that when we look at, as you allude, that the common thread on child practice reviews and adult practice reviews, it's not a failure of IT systems, it's a failure of individuals really to share the information that's known or to extract that information from a situation. So I think that will persist until we roll out, for example, in the police, we have an operation up Ambithin. We have over 1,000 officers trained since in the last 3 months, and that very much focuses on professional curiosity, not making assumptions, professional challenge, understanding that neglect in its many forms is not often overtly presented. It's presented in some behaviours by the perpetrator or by, indeed, the victims or those being abused. So I think it's really important. Technology will always have its limitations, in my view, no matter how good the information sharing capabilities are. Hence, I think we are safe from Elon Musk's world for some time in this arena. But it is an important question, Councillor, and I think it's important to be realistic about the IT systems will provide.
Thank you. Just before I bring anyone else in, can I just put Claire O'Keefe on the spot? Because I know we haven't heard Cumtaff's view on this, and I just wondered if I could possibly have your view on this as well, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, we've used a shared information platform for some time. I think what it allows us to do, we have a public protection nurse role, which sits within the MASH, that's able to access all of the health systems for the adults and the children in our family. So our contribution, I guess, to the GOS system then, it allows us to screen somewhere around 8 to 10 different systems, pulling out, I guess, identifiable risk factors for maybe a parental mental health or substance misuse, admissions to the emergency department. We're able to link in with health visiting records. What those public protection nurses will do is look at what information is appropriate. So I take on board what Clayton says. The system doesn't allow for human error then, I guess, in that they're looking at that information, they need to interpret it, they need to take out what's important and what's appropriate to put into that report to help our partner agencies make decisions around, what the risk factors are for that family. But it is the only platform I've seen that allows us to do that. to put it all into one place, and it generates a report then of everybody's information. I think when we, so as managers, perhaps if we were to review or do audits and we're able to look at that, you can look at people's decision making, look at all the risk factors and the reasons for the decisions. I think that's what's really useful about it. And like I said, I couldn't see any other way or format for us to use to gather all that information from all those different systems, put in one place for our partner agencies, really, and vice versa. I know police use 2 systems. The other thing is that within health, we don't have access to WICIS. I think in if we were to look at gold standard, a great health and social care platform would be brilliant moving forward, because I know that it's a barrier, certainly within child protection, but in all areas. I think one of our councillors mentioned earlier around, you know, that breakdown in communication between adult services or people accessing, if you're accessing social and healthcare, there's just not a join up of that information anyway, really. So the fact we're able to do it for child protection, I think, and adult protection within the MASH environment is a benefit, and it's the best that I've certainly seen, certainly from a health perspective. Is that okay? Sorry.
Yes, no,
Jay.
that's lovely. Thank you very much. That sort of completes the circle there, doesn't it? So I'm going to bring Claire back in, and then Della, I'll come to yourself, if that's okay.
Yeah, just 2 hopefully quite brief points. Claire mentioned that health staff don't have access to WCCIS. Obviously, the vision was when WCCIS came in that it was going to be a single integrated system for health and social care. I think the thinking has moved on from single system to talking about something called interoperability, so that systems can talk to each other and draw out the relevant information. So I think the strategy as we move forward in terms of case management systems will change, because with the best will in the world, it'd probably be a 100-year project, Claire, wouldn't it, for all those health systems to be in one systems. But what's key is that they talk to each other in that way. And then just to follow on from a point that Clayton was made, that this isn't about it's about systems, but it's also about humans and professionals working within those systems, which should be enabling of their practice. Obviously, one of the key things that we've been doing in children's social care is what we've called back to basics training, of which that professional curiosity is absolutely fundamental. And it's, you know, not just going into the meeting sharing information, it's the analysis of the information, it's understanding what's a danger, what's a risk, and having those robust professional conversations with professional colleagues.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes, Della Hughes, can I bring you in, please?
Hi. I was going to ask it later. We're talking about the action plan later on, but as it's been mentioned now, it's pleasing to say I was going to ask what the impact of the GOS system has had. Obviously, it's only been in place since early October, but I'm just wondering, when we say that it can be improved so that agencies are being able to have instant access to meeting minutes, how far off are we from that? And then sort of what impact will that have?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hughes. That's probably an area that's still a bit of a challenge for us at this moment in time. So within our action plan, if you note, we do talk about a review of our business support offer from within the local authority as well. We've done a lot of work around increasing a kind of a resource around support officers to assist with the minute taking and the action and the dissemination of that. It's flagged in the inspection itself as around an area for improvement. So we're in the process of currently undertaking a review of our business support processes, because we recognise that at the moment the timeliness of those minutes being shared with partner agencies and with families isn't as speedy as we'd want it to be. So there's a bit of ongoing work for us to achieve there. We're in the process of that review. We're reconvening back in the new year now to kind of see some of the findings that have come out of that and to inform our next steps. So in January onwards, we'll have a better indication in terms of whether there'll be any significant change to how we do our business or whether there's just a refine of some process and procedures, that's all. I hope that's okay.
Yes, thank you. Does that answer the question for you, Della?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Just to round this off as well, I had a very quick question that's come out of as a result of this. Obviously, we've got all of our agencies talking to each other now, and it seems to be working quite well. I think it's fair to say we're getting there, because the previous system obviously had quite significant failings there. We've heard about professionals feeding into that system, but how, when a member of the public, and I'm trying to be careful because I perhaps might need to declare a personal interest, not with this authority, but with a different authority, how, if a member of the public has, say, a POVA or a child issue, how do they go about raising that? And how does that go onto the system without it being missed, especially if an individual is raising it repeatedly with different authorities? Because I know that that has happened in the past from personal experience. And I want to know if the system has changed significantly so that that is not an issue going forward. Thank you.
In terms of that, Chair, from my perspective, once the referral is received, whether that's from an individual member of the public or from a professional, that would come into the same process as which Clayton's kind of alluded to. So we would then screen that from a local authority perspective. We would inform and make decisions on next steps, which may lead into child protection inquiries, and that trigger then into the GOS system for partner agencies to bring that together then. If that issue that may be on that referral is not deemed to be of a child protection process, then again the local authority would take forward things from a care and support aspect as well, and then take those further inquiries and then link with early help colleagues, etc., etc., if there is a need. That would be recorded on WCCIS, and only when it comes into a child protection kind of environment would it go into the GOS system for partner agencies to update their information. Does that answer? Yeah.
Thank you. Just very briefly from a South Wales Police perspective, and then from Cumtaff as well, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so as the report identifies, we have a single route. Well, actually there are two routes, but we'll put early help aside because I don't think that's what the question alludes to. But every referral or every incident we go to, any concern, we raise in a public protection notice. So PPN is sometimes what it's abbreviated to, which is referenced in the report. I'm quite confident that, and as it is referenced there, we forward almost every PPN, as David would agree, to children's services. But also, in addition to that, we have systems of vigilance to identify repeat PPNs, because of course, if someone is a repeat victim of abuse or there's a repeat concern, there's an indication of a possible failure to address it in the first place. So I think our systems are quite vigilant to that repeat. We have business intelligence tools that will pick up on if we're having a repeat referral. So, and what I will say through the various forums and meetings that are held within the MASH, repeat sort of referrals are one of those, because I do think it's an indication repeats are of system failure, which we haven't got, by the way, Chair. Sorry.
Yes. Thank you. Cheers. And Claire, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, I think in terms of members of the public raising concerns to us, certainly throughout training, we tell our staff members around the exercising their duty to report as well. So whilst we would encourage members of the public or support them to make their own referrals, we would, in addition to that, make another referral. And I know our health visiting colleagues, and Andrea is from Health Visiting Service, they've written that into their policy as well, into managing their safeguarding caseloads, that actually if they receive any report from a neighbour or member of the public that is of a concern, that whilst it would encourage them to make that report, we would also make one in addition to that. I'm just really mindful that sometimes I think when members of the public come into practitioners, it's because there's maybe a fear of reprisal for themselves, them not wanting to maybe make themselves identifiable or not be taken serious. So it's certainly, I think, Andrea, you would agree, something our colleagues certainly take seriously and make sure that they exercise their own duty to report as well if they receive information that's concerning.
Shall I come in there as well to reinforce
yes, please, Andrea, if you wish.
So, although today we are talking about Bridgend, this is right across, it is embedded across Cumtaff Morgannwg now, that anyone, if somebody comes to you with anything, it is also your responsibility, not just expecting others to do it as well.
Thank you. Lovely. Moving, Claire, did you want to come back?
Oh yeah, sorry, Shade.
Yeah,
just
no,
if you weren't aware, I know it was the main topic of Safeguarding Week as well was around raising public awareness and encouraging the public to report. So I know from a regional safeguarding perspective as well, that's something they're really keen to make improvements on.
Yes, I think that's really important, because the front door aspect is something that we've spoken about quite a lot, and we've scrutinised a lot here as well. That is the important part for the members of the public as well. So having that information out there is key, basically. I know it obviously increases workloads and things like that, but I think it's important that we do that aspect of the work as well, and not close that front door, so to speak. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Moving on, page 18 again, I've got Councillor Ross Penhale-Thomas, but I don't know if he's had to leave us. He was having to leave the meeting at 11 o'clock, so I think he may have, has he left? Okay, no worries. So I think the question that he was going to ask was on paragraph 3, the quality of care and support protection plans is too variable. Plans are adult rather than child focused without clear outcomes for the child identified. Now, that seems to be in contravention of what we've heard with previous reports, that the voice of the child is heard, and you know, the voice of the child is obviously part of the social services mandate, etc. So I just wondered how we've come to this new finding and what's happened to change this so that it's now saying this rather than our previous reports that have said almost the opposite, really, I think. And what are we doing to swing that pendulum back if that's an issue? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. In terms of the assessment, the voice of the child absolutely comes through as part of that side of things. And again, coming back to what I've already alluded to, really around the signs of safety framework, that very much is tools and direct work undertaken with children to elicit their voice in terms of what they want as well. Then, I think the finding within the report around the adult plans is that the focus that we've put within our planning around that is around what parents need to do to change, and actually what we should be looking at is what impact is the parent behaviour having on the child. So again, coming back to what I kind of touched on in an earlier response, really the signs of safety framework and that mapping out in terms of what is it that's working for the child, what is it that we're worried about, and what is it that what needs to happen here is how we're bringing that into our planning moving forward then, and that will be much more clearer in terms of the child's needs in future kind of work.
And do you think that's working as well, the sort of change there?
We're definitely seeing the green shoots of that. Our IRO service have recognised that with us in terms of our child protection kind of conferences and planning around that. There was a recent development day with IRO staff, who were very clear in terms of they are seeing the green shoots coming from the signs of safety model in terms of that work. And again, I believe it was referenced in the report as well that the signs of safety model is starting to be seen within some of our cases.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Claire, can I bring you in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know this came up as a finding from the HIW in respect of our cases as well around care and support plans, and particularly around visits to homes and I guess the lack of not using the care and support plan and measuring against it in terms of a family's motivation to change, but also around that child's lived experience, the day in life for that child. Now, Andrea, from a health visiting perspective, is also leading on those children who are non-verbal, and us making sure that we still capture their voice and capture their experience when we're home visiting. So there's a piece of work that's ongoing with that, but just a small change we have made is around conference reports and making sure that practitioners have considered, you know, how they've progressed in respect to that care and support plan to be able to influence what they put in their next case conference. I think what we recognised, Andrea, from collecting records, there were a number of files without a care and support plan in there. So making sure practitioners are aware of their responsibility to get a copy of that care and support plan and making sure they're using that, you know, rather than visits just being without any focus, I guess, you know, that they make sure they're using that to support the family to reach those milestones, all those children, to make sure their needs are met. But I can see Andrea's got a hand up, and I know more has been done within the health visiting service. Chair, that might give you some more reassurance.
Absolutely, yes. Can I bring you in, please, Andrea?
Yes. So we recognised that the non-verbal child was in fact very much present and therefore needed to be represented. So rather than just look for an internal solution, we've actually joined with Children in Wales and with the Children's Commissioner, and we are very much looking at a pledge. Either a baby's pledge or another part of the Children's Charter. So nobody is invisible. So the infant and the baby and the non-verbal child will actually be reflected in all documentation. We very much are starting the pilot. We've had a conference recently to look at what it's going to look like, but very much CTM now are going to be leading the way in Wales.
Thank you. Do you know, that's really interesting that you've highlighted that, you've noted that. and that you've lifted up that section who might not have a voice, and you're giving them that voice. I think that's to be commended, actually, because we don't want any child left behind. And you're quite right, there are children who are non-verbal, and that for them obviously presents an issue when trying to put their voice forward. So I'm really heartened to hear that you're doing that work, and absolutely I commend you for doing that, because that's fantastic. Thank you. Moving on to page 18 at the bottom, I've got Councillor Alan Wathen with a question, please. Thank you.
Yeah, many thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions in relation to paragraph 3.12. How is the JICPA action plan monitored, and when is it submitted and is it reviewed? Second question then is, how is the SSIB board set up, and is the membership changed on a regular basis?
Claire, thank you.
So the action plan has been submitted to each individual inspectorate and will go to the next meeting of the Cwmtaf Morgannwg Regional Safeguarding Board. Key actions within the action plan will be monitored by the executive steering group of that regional safeguarding board, and will report into the board in due course. That the board is actually set out in statute as the accountable body to which we're all responsible in terms of the quality and effectiveness of our safeguarding arrangements as statutory partners. So we all sit on that board and account to it. We'll also be taking the action plan from a local authority perspective into Cabinet for consideration, and because that's our internal governance, but it's really helpful to have all partners here for the pre-scrutiny, and I'm sure partners will be taking it to the similar governance within their organisations. The Social Services Improvement Board is a board which is newly established, and we did have other improvement arrangements prior to that. It's chaired by the leader of council, group leaders, our members, as well as senior officers of the authority and an independent advisor called Phil Hodgson. And because we would say we're still an authority that requires improvement in terms of our social services arrangements, it's really important that there's that robust governance as part of the arrangements. It doesn't cut across anything that Scrutiny does, because Scrutiny then needs to look independently at those recommendations, but it allows on a bi-monthly basis a good 2.5 hours to get in depth around the areas for improvement within social services in Bridgend.
Thank you. Dave, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to add in terms of the JICPA action plan as well, we review that within our joint operational group, which is attended by health, police, education, and ourselves then from a social services perspective, and we'll review the progress of that plan within that forum as well then from a multi-agency aspect.
Thank you. Claire, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, thank you. We've shared the joint action plan with our Safeguarding Executive Group, which is the directors of all of our key groups within the Health Board. But in addition to that, I suppose we've also reflected the outcome of the JICPA in our Safeguarding Maturity Matrix. That is the Health Board Safeguarding Improvement Plan that gets shared with Public Health Wales. So we've reflected obviously some of the findings, or most of the findings within that Safeguarding Maturity Matrix. And that is also monitored through a number of different governance arrangements in terms, because we've got different key groups. We've just had a restructure. It'll actually be, I guess, have oversight from the Children and Families key group, because that's the one that is most affected by, also Safeguarding Executive Group, but equally a primary care as well, thinking about our GPs. So they sit under a primary and mental health care group. So it gets shared through all of those, but actually the oversight is through our Safeguarding Executive Group, where all of those directors attend. So they're able to provide scrutiny and oversight of that action plan there.
Fantastic. Clayton, can I bring you in, please?
Yes, Chair, just to give some assurance from a police perspective and a governance there, we have a strategic crime and safeguarding board, all action plans. So this action plan, but also we'd be subject to maybe HMIC action plans, thematic learning, our own internal reviews get monitored on a monthly basis, and we provide updates then to Strategic Command of where we are. And I think importantly as well, we've had the opportunity to share the learning with other regional safeguarding boards and other local authorities. So I'm sure, I believe, my Van Wyk can see a hand up, but it is public that another local authority will soon have a JICPA, another inspection. And I think it's important that we learn from each other. So that has been shared with that local authority in advance as well.
Fantastic, yes. And Ms Van Wyk, can I bring you in, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to add from CIW's perspective to children's services and some of the partnership actions that are contained in the action plan, that we would be reviewing those on an ongoing basis as part of our monitoring of local authorities' performance. So just to give that assurance as well. So we have how we operate is we have a link senior manager for each local authority across Wales, and they would, as I say, be monitoring those actions as part of their ongoing engagement with local authority leaders. Just to say that from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. That's heartening to hear as well, because I think it's quite important to do that ongoing review, isn't it? So, yeah, thank you very much. Does that answer the question for you, Councillor Wattham?
Yeah, many thanks for that full and complete answers. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot who'd asked the question. Sorry about that. We're motoring through. That's the problem. Right. And on that note, we're coming down to the end of page 20. Ross did have a question, and obviously he's not here. Oh, Della, did you want to come in before?
Yeah, it's on page 20, financial implications. So we are all aware.
That's the question we were going to ask, but I'll let you do it. Go on.
Oh, sorry. We're all aware of the challenging circumstances facing the local authority and its partners. So while some areas for improvement can be soaked up within existing resources and capacity, what impact does it have on budgets? Are we confident we have the resource to continue our good practice and make the needed improvements?
Frighteningly, it's almost like you are inside Ross's head. But yes, and just to add as well, obviously we've got the 3-year plan. So how does that feed into that as well, please? So Claire, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, thankfully, there is almost complete alignment with the 3-year plan and the recommendations from the JICPA from a children and families perspective in Bridgend, and that's because we obviously had a draft of the JICPA report available to us as we were developing and finalising that 3-year plan. As members will know, that 3-year plan was considered by both Cabinet and Council in September and approved. And the reason it went to Council as well as to Cabinet is because there were financial implications and decisions that only Council could make. So there were financial implications as a consequence of that plan, and Council took a decision to via £1 million in year to support the workforce issues in children's social care. And the Council report also noted a need for a further £2.5 million recurringly, and that would need to be considered as part of the budget setting, which will obviously take place at the start of the new calendar year for 24-25 onwards.
Thank you. Do we have any comment on impact from our partners?
Chair.
Okay, Chair. I think we've got feedback. That feedback would be me. Sorry, I do apologise. Look, the reality is it's an incredibly challenging environment, I think, for all the public sector. What I would say from a South Wales Police perspective, this is a priority, and that makes it easier. So when you look at the report, it made observations about some vacancies and some shortfalls in staff. We've had an uplift of 12 staff across. Not every area of policing has had that priority and focus. So when it comes to exploitation, vulnerability, violence against women and girls, these are where South Wales Police are putting our resources. There will be an opportunity cost, but that is for us to manage. What is the priority is and outlined in our Chief Constable's delivery plan of these areas of business.
That's heartening to hear that it's a priority as well. So thank you. Claire, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, thank you.
Claire O'Keefe, because I've got Claire Martin's hand up. Is that a... Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Claire O'Keefe. Thank you.
That's okay. I think, like every other organisation, it's a real struggle at the moment. I mean, all of the recommendations and findings from the report were taken seriously, but I think, the Health Board, along with other health boards in Wales, are having a real financial struggle. So I guess there isn't investment in further resources, but I think the assurance I can give is, as part of the restructure, what we're looking at is there's an opportunity for us to look at all safeguarding specialist roles, look at how we work better together to make sure statutory functions are covered, not just in the child protection arena, but within our domestic abuse, adult arena. So I think it's pulling in all of that expertise, and the other things we are doing that perhaps are cost neutral is developing a workforce that's more experienced in safeguarding, more knowledgeable. So we've trying to follow in the steps of our Betsy Cadwallader colleagues in developing a champion model where we can find people who've got a natural interest within safeguarding, want to progress within that field, and using, I guess, that passion or for want of a better word, to use those people to really develop them. And as part of the succession planning as well within the health board, there aren't a great deal of safeguarding specialists, I should say, across Wales. So being able to capture that and be able to grow it within the health board is really important. And I think why we're in the financial position we're in, that's probably the opportunities we've got at the moment to drive forward our safeguarding agenda. But it is really important, and I think all of our directors are really keen to progress then with the JICPA and drive those improvements, particularly around, we're looking at training, driving changes within our child protection management, and I think that's multi-agency. We've done an extensive piece of work with our partners around improving our management of physical injuries then, or suspicious physical injuries. There's a lot of work that continues around that. So I think whilst we do have a resource issue, it's not stopping us from pushing forward, which is reassuring. We're still being able to, best part of us, meet our statutory functions, although at times we're all having to muck in with that, myself included. We're having to become perhaps a little bit more operational at times to make sure that we can fulfil those functions, which is fine, providing we, making sure children are safeguarded. But I do think it's a challenge, and I don't want to sit here and say, yes, we're going to have a really good investment into that at the moment, because we're just not in that climate, I suppose.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes, does that answer the question for you?
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
No worries. Can I just come back, Claire, and just ask you, because obviously you've identified that there are gaps there. There's challenges, there's issues there. What exactly are you doing to address those? Have you got a plan going forward, and how does that look, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so the part of the outcome of the JICPA was that we don't have a safeguarding strategy. So that is a priority for us to develop a safeguarding strategy. I wouldn't say the gaps. We managed to fulfill, we cover 2 multi-agency safeguarding hubs. I think that's probably where in the inspection they felt there were potential difficulties then, based on all of those information systems. They need to check the increase in what we're seeing in child protection through the front door. I think the opinion, which would be mine, is that we need more people in the MASH, to be able to cover everything that's coming in. But what I will say is we are using a strategy at the moment where we are utilising those clinical nurse specialists that work outside of the MASH. So they've been more involved in that work. We've brought them into the MASH arrangement. We're training them up on the GOS system so that we make sure we've got more of a robust cover for sickness or annual leave, or, when we're seeing that increase in pressure. There isn't, I wouldn't say, a risk and gap in information sharing, because we're always able to pull somebody in from health into those strategy meetings, those conferences. So I'm assured that we've got that information sharing still got the multi-agency working. I guess it's more around the pressures on the well-being of those people who are working in that environment. I think everybody will agree the multi-agency safeguarding hub is very intensive at times because of what's coming in through the front door and by the very nature of what we're dealing with on a daily basis. So I think our priority is more around making sure there's more of a robust resource to make sure nobody does get in that situation where they're burnt out with it and are still able to critically analyse the information that's coming in and make sound decisions. I am assured, I think, particularly with the multi-agency safeguarding hub, there's good support from partner agencies, and there's always opportunity for professional challenge, which came through in the JICPA and didn't come out as being a concern. So I think I'm assured there aren't necessarily gaps, but I think to be able to drive improvements, we all know we need more resources to do that, to be able to get forward faster.
Absolutely. And Are you content as well? Sorry, one final question. Are you content that pulling individuals in from different areas to cover, which is basically what you've just said, are you content that that is a strategy going forward that works and is a long-term strategy? Thank you.
I think so. I think we've got a number of safeguarding specialists. So I think in total we've got somewhere around 12 clinical nurse specialists for safeguarding. We've already been working over the last couple of years to professionally develop them within other areas of safeguarding. So just to give you an example, some of those have previously just worked in health visiting. We've been able to facilitate where they've worked within the safeguarding hub, you know, to have an awareness of wider safeguarding public protection issues, those that affect our older children as well. Training, enhanced training at a level 4, you know, to make sure everybody's upskilled. So I do see that as being probably a way forward. That's the only cost neutral option I can see, is that we pool our resource, we look at what our statutory obligations are, and we're able to have a much wider team to deliver on, you know, what we need to deliver on for learning, education. You know, we have a number of child practice reviews, and it's about how do we embed the learning from those practice reviews. We're a very big organisation, so we need that structure around us to be able to do that. And our executives are on board, they're aware of that. And I think through the organisational change that's ongoing at the moment and restructuring, we're really hoping that that will come out, that we'll have a much larger resource then to be able to dedicate where it's needed.
Lovely, thank you very much. I appreciate those answers because they're bold and quite open and honest, so thank you, Claire. Moving on, page 25, I'm going to take us through to the, I can't think what the word is, pardon me, the actual, yes, the inspection report. Sorry, I'm having a blank today, sorry about that. I'm just going to ask very quickly if our partners feel that the way that this report is done is satisfactory, because I've noticed as well, whilst we've gone through, that we've been told that our partners are automatically doing their own sort of SWOT analysis, in that they're identifying the threats and the weaknesses automatically themselves. But I noticed when going through this report, there isn't any threats or weaknesses identified. We've got the strengths, which is great, but the weaknesses aren't in there. And I just wondered if that was perhaps something that, because we're doing it automatically with the, I think it was called the CRISP process, wasn't it, that you mentioned, and that we do our own SWOT analysis with the weaknesses automatically, that is something that you would like to see on a more professional footing within this report going forward. So I just wondered if I could have your opinions on that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that the report is written in a strength-based way. We practice in a strength-based way, and you know, there's lots of discussions with Care Inspectorate Wales, and I'm sure with other inspectorates, about how these reports can be helpful to organisations in making progress. So I think what perhaps you referred to as weaknesses, Chair, are those areas for improvement. Those are the things that we're not doing as well as we could. I think, as I said at the start, it does reflect our own self-evaluation. I think the real value of this JICPA is that rather than looking at it as a single organisation, as we do frequently when you know we're in the lead up to inspections by a single inspectorate, we did that self-evaluation together. So we could really draw out, because you're as strong as your weakest link, aren't you, in multi-agency safeguarding arrangements. We could really draw that out, and so I think that's the real value. Although you know you can see across partners there's strengths and areas for improvement in all of the 4 key partner agencies who were inspected as part of this. It's the overall which really matters, doesn't it, to children in Bridgend, and I think that's the value here. But yeah, I think those weaknesses are within those areas of improvement, and I happen to sit on the local authority advisory group with CIW, which met only yesterday, and there was a presentation by my family's colleague Michael Holden, who was one of our inspectors, on the themes coming through from the JICPAs that have happened to date. And I think not just my opinion as somebody who's been through it, but others from local authorities were very welcoming of the format of the report, and felt that there was clear learning evident and areas that we could improve, but welcomed the way that was framed within the reports.
Thank you. That's interesting to hear. Clayton?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge the terms of reference of the report, and that is very much focused on the multi-agency arrangements for child protection, isn't it? And a cohort within that as well. So I find it useful focusing on that. So we'll all have our own inspection regimes. The HMICFRS with us currently conducting an efficiency and effectiveness, legitimacy sort of inspection as I talk. We will pick up learning. There's national context, maybe not referenced in here, that we all experience and aware of. But actually, I think by having that terms of reference, which actually focuses on, and a term used earlier on, that interoperability and how we manage them together is really quite useful, because otherwise it'd be very broad to talk about every agency with the context, wouldn't it? So yeah, I find it very useful.
Fantastic. And Claire, can I ask you as well, please?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, the whole process was really useful. So whilst the report doesn't reflect everything we'd gone through pre the report being developed. And I think having that joint evaluation that we did, we worked very much multi-agency from the outset. We were able to joint evaluate some of those cases. And I think it was very telling that actually we'd already identified our own strengths and weaknesses before the report came out, and not having those surprises gave me some assurance actually that everything we had done beforehand was right, because the inspectors hadn't come out with anything any different. And I think our colleagues will agree we'd already started trying to drive those improvements right from the outset of identification, rather than waiting for publication of the report. So yeah, I found the whole process very useful, and I think throughout there was a joined up SWOT analysis then, for want of a better word, throughout that full journey.
Yeah, thank you. That's really heartening to hear. And just to mop up, I think, is Lindsay still on the call? If I could ask, just under an education heading, or maybe John Paul, do you want to take it if Lindsay isn't? Oh, Lindsay, are you content with this as well?
I am, Chair. Just to pick up really the points I made to Councillor Thomas earlier in the meeting, absolutely. I think there's probably three parts for us, which is particularly important. Obviously, we take very serious recognition of any recommendations that are made by regulators. It's built naturally into our business plans to make sure that they're addressed formally, and they are reported then to Cabinet and to various scrutiny groups. So I think that's the first part. I think the second part is we need to make sure, as Claire said, it aligns with current operating models. So you'll be aware within the Education and Family Support Directorate, there's a 3-year strategic plan. Strategic theme 2, 3 and 8 refer specifically to the elements within the JICPA report. So they are very much aligned there as well, which I think is very important. And I think the third element is that internal alignment is important as well. Myself and Claire, we co-chair an early health and safeguarding board. And again, that's plenty of professional discussion that takes part of that board to make sure everything is aligned internally. So again, overall, I think the report is very, very helpful, actually. It does identify the strengths very clearly. The areas of development will be addressed, and they will be very clearly monitored then by elected members and senior officers within the organisation.
Fantastic. That's lovely to hear. Thank you very much, everyone. So moving us along to, pardon me, apologies if you bear with me 1 second. Page 29, I believe, Councillor Wattham, you might have a question here about best practice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, paragraph 3, I get a couple of questions on, really, and it's in relation to the information sharing. How is the information shared, and is it working? And secondly, is there a possibility that children could fall through the net?
Who would like to take that? Clayton?
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I was having old habits. I just put my mic on my computer there. So, yeah, reading the... I mean, my honest answer is I do not believe so. We have a really robust mechanism in place for submission of PPN. That's been strengthened since April, in fact, with business intelligence. So I'm able to tell you exactly how many PPNs, how many referrals to children's services, what are the backlogs, how long it takes us to assess those, and can give some assurance that as today as I stand, the average time for assessment of of a referral by an officer is 12 hours, which is remarkably good when we look at that 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So I do not believe. I think that the gaps. Someone just mentioned early help, and I think we need to be honest about what that early help provision looks like. I think whether it's a universal offering or we start to focus on an edge of care cohort. So what we do see are we talked about repeat referrals earlier on. I think no child falls through a gap. Certainly that comes through the South Wales Police front doors, of which there are many. But I do believe we need to be more acutely aware of those that are coming to our attention more often than not. So I talked earlier on about understanding what that repeat referral looks like. So that's a work in progress, and that's where we need to focus. But as for falling through a gap, I stand here fairly confident that we submit referrals to Children's Services, do so in significant volume, as I can see the nods next to me. So I don't believe we are, but we've got to make sure that we are not complacent in that area as well, which is what our business intelligence tools sort of tell us, I suppose.
Thank you. Claire, can I bring you in?
Yeah, I would say, and Scrutiny Committee are aware of this, but that those significant numbers of referrals that do come through, and we have seen a significant increase even going into this financial year. Credit to the workforce within the MASH. Those are screened in 99% percentage of time within 24 hours, and that's really important. What we are seeing is a healthy reduction in those that go on to requiring ongoing assessment and safeguarding investigation, which is good. The important bit, which Clayton has just picked up, is making sure that everybody gets the support they need at the right time, and that's part of our 3-year strategic plan, isn't it, to make sure that nobody falls through the gap and there's timely preventative work with those children and families who don't need that statutory intervention to prevent those needs escalating up and those repeat referrals, which could lead into safeguarding inquiries, as Clayton set out.
Thank you. Do you want to come back? Yeah.
I do actually. Sorry, councillors. I was quite surprised by the comment and observation around sort of falling through gaps. I just want to clarify exactly what the report referred to there. So I talked about PPNs, and we're absolutely quite robust there. The report referred to something called Op Encompass. So what Operation Encompass is are the early referral to education of children that have been involved in quite a traumatic incident overnight. So some research has taken place. We understand that children going to school in the morning, we need the teacher to be aware that they could have suffered some trauma overnight, witnessed domestic abuse. Now, I just want to emphasise the actual report highlights that there's really effective and good information sharing of our PPNs. The summary report, which the Op Encompass, and I will say this is one of the strengths of the JICPA, by the way. We talked about weaknesses and threats. What the JICPA allows in an inspection process to do are other agencies to highlight where they think a weakness may exist in another. So I'll be clear here that education were honest and said they weren't getting those Op Encompass reports through to the teacher in a timely manner. We've reviewed that process, we've refined it, and we make sure those referrals go across. Now we've got 2 people dedicated to do that before 8 o'clock in the morning. So we should capture most of those that are submitted. So I just wanted to clarify that because it's an important point, and that's what caught me. I've not cited on the questions beforehand that it's Op Encompass we're talking about, which has been refined.
Thank you, because that's actually really heartening to hear that you've changed that, because you're right, it is that critical timing there, and the fact that you've put 2 staff members in to do that really does help to flow that information back through to our partners in education. So that's really good. Again, well done. I really commend you for doing that, because that's, really, really important there, because you're right, children will be going into school and there will be issues there, and then they can be addressed by the teachers and the care staff there. So that's great. That's great to hear that change has been made. So thank you. Yes. Councillor Watham, are you content with that answer? Yes,
thank you, Chair. Very content. I would like to thank Clayton for those reassurances in relation to the systems. And yes, well done as they are in being, to be perfectly honest. Thank you.
Yeah, because it's such a simple change, but it makes such a massive difference. And that's really, what we need to be seeing. So yes, well done. Moving on, page 30. Hang on, let me just work this out. 1, 2, 3 paragraphs down. it says here the child protection component of the paediatric form used for all children attending the Health Board's emergency department at Princess of Wales was not always completed, meaning a child's social worker may not be notified of a child's attendance at ED. I just wondered, because this has been highlighted, if Claire or Andrea would like to comment on why this form was being skipped. Was there a reason? Was it staff shortages, timings, impacts in the ED department? What is the impact that you found this has had? And how have you gone about resolving this? Is this a training issue? Is it a time issue? Pressures, resources? What exactly is the issue, and how have you resolved it? Thank you.
I can take that one. It's an emergency department trigger list that should be completed for every child that comes in. There's one in each emergency department. So I think on going back to those particular cases with POWED, it was, I guess, perceived then it was due to agency staff. They use a number of agency staff that come from a number of different health boards, might not necessarily be familiar with the paperwork to fill that in. However, they should, because the trigger lists are on majority across Wales. There is a training need, so we've put on some bespoke training for the emergency department there, and that's also been in respect of improving quality of child protection referrals. Around supporting staff around the documentation they're using. In addition to that, we have an emergency department safeguarding group that was bi-monthly. Is now monthly at the moment, where we're able to meet with colleagues to look at having consistency across the documentation that's being used, around where we can drive improvements, and that's attended by both medical and nursing colleagues. And the agreement has been there that they would be audited. So some of the senior nurses within the emergency department are now looking at child admissions to make sure that that's completed, and to be able to give us assurance back to myself and our team that that is now being done. But we actually undertake an audit of the emergency department anyway, children attending with physical injuries. We did an audit last year, and we've done another one this year. So what we've done is amended that audit now to make sure that trigger list is included, so that obviously we can check on that as well to make sure those improvements have been driven in. There was some work around an emergency department booklet that we developed a couple of years ago. We're updating that so that we can include obviously the importance of completing that documentation, so agency staff can pick that booklet up and they'll have an awareness of what's expected of them when they're working within that emergency department and or others in Cwm Taf Morgannwg.
Thank you. And do you feel that that's sufficient? Do you feel there's more work to be done in this, or do you feel that you're covering it? Thank you.
I feel at the moment, yes. I think probably to do the audit will tell us whether it's worked or not. I think the bespoke workshops that we've got planned with POWED, they are running every 2 months at the moment. Hopefully we'll capture all of the substantive staff. Obviously agency is a difficulty, I think, across organisations anyway, but having those resources available and to hand, and I think when they've got new people coming into the department setting out their expectations, will give us further reassurance. But I probably feel more comfortable answering that after we've done an audit and making sure that we've evidenced that, if that's okay.
Yes, it is perhaps an unfair question at this point, but thank you. So, thank you very much. And taking us on to page 31, there's a similar question that I want to bring to yourself, Clayton, if possible, that is on paragraph 3 of the South Wales Police part there, that says the force's recording of ethnicity details remains poor and inconsistent. The force knows about this problem but hasn't addressed it. And then at the bottom it says the recording of ethnicity is also an important improvement in social services. So firstly, if I can bring yourself in and ask the same questions, why was this being missed? What have you done to address it? And the same questions as Cwm Taf had, please. And then I'll come to social services. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I'll start with an acknowledgement. We need to do better in this area, simply. That is the report is right. It's a challenge, and it remains a challenge for us. Understanding the problem, what we do know is that there are 2 ways we can record this. The most accurate, of course, is if someone declares their ethnicity to us, and then we have officer defined. So we have someone identifying someone and making that. Now, what we we know that's not going to be as accurate as someone declaring their ethnicity to us. So we are doing some work around that. So I mentioned earlier Operation Ambithin. That's a program where we've trained over 1,000 officers, and we very much talk about the importance. If we look at proportionality, disproportionality in policing response, or agencies, or indeed some services are going to be unique to someone's personal characteristics, it's important that we start to record that right. I sit here, Chair, saying that we've got some way to go and being honest about it, but it is absolutely focus of the force at the moment to understand how we can improve that recording. Op Ambithin is one way we are doing it. We are looking at some technological solutions to that. So, for example, the referral forms that I've talked about, there is an opportunity to make it mandatory to record people's ethnicity on that. We are exploring that because what is worse than not recording it is having in there inaccurate data. So we talked about the importance of people engaging and declaring their ethnicity to us, and I think that's where we need to focus on first before making it mandatory that an officer records. But it is absolutely a focus of the force at the moment.
Right.
Your mic's off, Rhea.
Yes, sorry. I'll repeat that. Sorry, I didn't realise. So Operation Ambithin, what changes is that bringing in, please, if you can be specific?
Yeah, so we talked earlier about some of the challenges I think we all face, and one of them is a young and inexperienced workforce. We talked about some common themes earlier on during this, such as professional curiosity, accurate record keeping, voice for child, exactly what that does mean. And Operation Ambithin is a educational input that all officers are getting to enhance the vulnerability training they already have to focus on those key areas. In addition to Op Ambithin, there is a leadership program within South Wales Police, all sergeants who are key actually in managing officers who are at the front line and delivering that. That focuses a whole day on vulnerability. You asked me what the differences that make. I think it's early to say, so we'll have an evaluation, and certainly as part of Op Ambithin 2, which is already redeveloping, we'll understand what we've learned from that. We are seeing improvements, so we log and count the deficiencies that we have in our PPNs. So we have PPN risk assessors, and we've seen an improvement in the quality of submissions through us, and hopefully that will reflect in the quality of submissions through the children's services. It's important to say as well, and I'm sorry, this just slightly outside Op Ambithin, but a change had come in the beginning of June, just as this inspection was taking place, and a decision made in April this year was to centralise the Safeguarding Command. So I stand here today as head of Safeguarding Operations South Wales Police, a role that didn't exist in April. You would have had a BCU superintendent who would have had other areas of interest in business to manage. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk about them and own the issues that we're talking about. But that has come at a significant uplift within our governance of safeguarding in South Wales Police as well. So we now have a chief superintendent over safeguarding, have a counterpart over in safeguarding, and we have a number of detective chief inspectors who are solely focused on safeguarding. That's never happened in South Wales Police before June this year. So I think it's an important strength to mention as well, on top of Op Ambithin and how we reinforce it, and I suppose those improvements.
Definitely, I think that's a really positive change actually to sort of focus down on that. And just before I come back to social services on this, one final question, obviously because it's a question about ethnicity and things. I do know that South Wales Police works well with various groups like CST and Muslim Council of Wales. Have you taken advice from them going forward about this form as well, please?
Yes, we consult stakeholders quite regularly, and we have a number of outreach programs. I think it's fair to say, particularly in a court and a remit within the DRICPA, there's some work to do to understand actually ethnicity within a young population. I think it's quite a complex area of business. But as I said, I want to be realistic and open. It's a challenge for us. We are working and we're putting our endeavours into improving in this area. But I don't want to give a false assessment of where we are. We have some way to go, I suspect. But absolutely, we reach out to all and we have an EDI and Equality, Diversity and Inclusion department that very much focuses and holds the strategy in that. And yesterday, I sat on the EDI strategic. I'll have to apologise. I've got a terrible cold, but it is a cold and nothing more sinister. I've tested. So we have an EDI strategic board with strategic leads throughout, and that outreach and making sure that we capture the voice is important. We also held to account by the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner. So, for example, I think it was last month or the month before that I stood in a very similar scrutiny panel on our response to honour-based abuse. And again, we have some key stakeholders that were reporting to us and tell us what their experiences when dealing with the police in these areas. So it is really important. It's really important how service is shaped by these forums.
Lovely, thank you very much. Can I come to Laura? Thank you.
Fine. I think what I would say, sadly, is I concur with sort of a lot of the things that Clayton's saying. Really, I think it's really sad and frustrating that it still continues to be an area of improvement for us. It is, as Clayton said, the same thing, on all of our records, on all of our templates. It is on there. It's a requirement for social workers to complete that section of the form, but for some reason, as the inspectors have indicated, we're not consistent in terms of our performance in this respect. So I think for me, it's about us understanding, firstly, why that is still the case. And, as social workers having those conversations or asking those questions, or, we need to understand why it's not routinely completed. And similarly, really, it's about we're considering the same technical solutions possibly in terms of making it a mandatory field so that we can hopefully then see an improvement in performance, because people will have to complete that part of the form before they can move on to other parts of the form. But we only do that when it's absolutely required. But we will if we need to.
It might be an unfair question, but do you think we've got to that point if the inspector has raised that? Do you think that we should make that change?
I will probably take the stance that I think we probably should. If we don't, if we're still not seeing improvements or having really clear explanations that we can assist with, then I would see that as the only solution.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers. Claire?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's not being completed routinely on a non-mandatory basis probably gives some cause for concern in terms of the importance that's being accorded to it by the workers. And it's similarly, I suppose, to what Clayton's outlined for South Wales Police, we as an authority have got an action plan as part of the Anti-Racism Wales action plan that Welsh Government have put in place. An element of that is the social services element of that plan. Our policy officer within the directorate is the lead on that. And for me, there's a lot of requirements there around, I think we're all struggling today, around training, not just in overt racism, but that unconscious bias. Why would you not think that is important in taking into account the context in which a child is living? So I do agree with Laura that I think there's more to do in this area, as well as to make that field mandatory.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your honesty on that, because I know it's quite a difficult area to address, is that? So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on. And my next question is from Maxine on page 33. So Councillor Lewis, please. I think your microphone's on mute. Oh, is it not working? Can we? Sorry, just to clarify, you have tried to unmute it, haven't you, at your end? Yes, I thought that would be the case. Right, do you want me to read the question out for you? Right, bear with me 1 second. Sorry, I am squinting, so you're going to have to bear with me. In previous Scrutiny Council meetings, Councillor Amanda Williams noted about the lack of training for governors at schools for safeguarding training. There were recommendations around this specific training made by this committee, and I wondered if we have seen improvements in this training take up since then. Also, if this has been improved, take up for, Also, if this has been improved, has there been a take-up for governors and others who interact with pupils, especially as safeguarding training, we were told, is not mandatory for governors? So I think that's one for Lindsay or for JP, I suspect. Oh, you can fight it out between you.
I'll start and Lindsay can sort of add anything. We always encourage governors to do safeguarding training. I know this is run by Central South Consortium, and they have tried putting them on in person because obviously not a lot of members of the public can do online, and they do online training as well. I'm not aware if they've done any more recent, as in more sessions rather than. So, but we can definitely go away and raise that with Central South Consortium. It's definitely something governor training that we talk about a lot. Councillor, you are right, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Amanda Williams just raised it quite often. And as a governor myself, my head has asked us all to redo our safeguarding training, also because we're due our Estin inspection coming up. I'm sure the two aren't related, but. Yes, so we are trying to see more safeguarding training being done. We are encouraging always that our governors take part in that. And I'm not 100% sure if you say it's not mandatory now. I believe it should be one of those mandatory trainings that you do because it is so important for governors because they help the head run the school, and so they have that responsibility to manage that school and manage those safeguarding referrals before they come to. Us here in the local authority, but I don't know if Lindsay's got anything more to add on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Lindsay, do you want to come in?
Thanks, Chair. Just to concur really with Councillor Bundle, safeguarding is our #1 priority in schools. That's very, very clear. And that is obviously at all levels of management within the school, whether it's with teachers, head teachers, or with governors. It's the #1 priority. To answer the question directly, we have seen some uptake. It's not where it needs to be. Clearly, we've seen some training sessions where we've not achieved 100% commitment from governors around this important area. So certainly something we're working with Central South Consortium on. In addition to that, we've responded, we believe, positively to some of the challenges around this from the summer. And what we've done is we've established monthly Bridgend Governors Association meetings, as Councillor Brindell says, to make them accessible to everyone. We hold them in person and online. So we spread the in-person meetings across the county. The last one was in CCYD, the next one is in my state school, and the one in the summer term is in Cumfig. So we've looked at geographical dispersion around those and also made them available, as I mentioned, online. We have inputs from the education engagement team, as referenced several times during the report. So they come and give in-person presentations to governors. And also they arrange governors' sessions in person and online again with regard to this important agenda item. So, Chair, and for your benefit and for scrutiny members, this is certainly something that we see as being not just a high priority, but the top priority within my directorate. And it's certainly something we push hard with our schools and with governing bodies. And I have to say, in the main, we have some extremely effective governing bodies in Bridgend schools. And they see that as being an equally important area for them as well.
Thank you. So just to clarify, it's not mandatory to undertake this training for governors, but you believe it should be. Do we have the ability to make it mandatory then?
It's part of the conversation we're having with Central South and Welsh Government at the moment, Chair. It's something we believe extremely strongly in. Again, as Councillor Bundle quite rightly says, I'm not aware of any legislation that mandates it for governors, but it's certainly something that we push extremely hard, and certainly every governor's letter, every director's letter that I write on a termly basis, safeguarding is always promoted as our #1 priority.
No problem. So in that case, would it be helpful if we were to write from this committee to Welsh Government to back you in that call for it? And would you welcome that?
It would certainly be helpful if, sorry, apologies, I think Councillor Bundle was going to chair. Apologies.
No, I think we're both going to say the same thing. Perfectly, obviously, I don't want to change your recommendations. That would be improper of the Cabinet member to do so. But yes, please do. I think this is something not just in Bridgend but across the whole of Wales needs to be put on every governor's radar, and it should be part of that process. Same with the other mandatory training. I believe it has to be number one on that list. So any further push from yourselves will be greatly received. Thank you, Chair.
No, that's not a problem. I'm happy to do that because I agree with you. I do think that is massively important, and there's a massive gap there as well that should be addressed, and quickly, I think, as well, because that's a major flaw and issue potentially. So yeah, thank you. I'm happy to do that. Right. Thank you very much. Moving on. Are you content with the answer there, Councillor Lewis? Yeah, fantastic, brilliant, lovely. So going to the Appendix 2 now. I think this is where our next question is, unless any councillor has any other questions. No, I'll take that as a no. Lovely. So we are on page 47, and I believe Councillor Watham has a question on page 46, 47 that he wants to bring in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Page 46, at the bottom of the page, in relation to action, increase the resource available within the MASH to respond to referrals. I would ask about the progress of recruitment. Is it now completed? If not, when will it be completed?
Thank you. Can I bring you in, Clayton? Thank you.
Yes, Councillor, I can confirm it has completed. So in total, there's an extra 3 members of staff sitting in the front door within Bridgend MASH at the moment. That was the phase of recruitment after this. However, we are just currently recruiting for another sergeant as well to support. So actually, you know, and in recognition really of Bridgend MASH being a location, well, an area of true co-location, we are putting a resource in there. So yeah, I'm glad to report we have realised that uplift.
Fantastic. Does that answer the question for you, Councillor Watham?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just going on to page 47 in relation to the review of safeguarding resources. When will that be completed, and when will it be reported back?
I'll take that one, Chair. We're in the process of just looking at the kind of resourcing that's available in response to the level of demand that we're seeing. A number of kind of consideration being put forward at this point with Claire and with Laura in terms of what that will look like. We anticipate that we'll move forward in terms of that model within the new year, within January.
Appas?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
No problem, thank you. And do any councillors have any other questions on Appendix 2, please, that they want to bring forward? No. Silence is golden. Oh, Councillor Hughes. There we go.
I just wanted to ask, on page 51, where we're talking about the voice of the child, obviously, you know, it's important that their voice is heard in all aspects of their lives. And we've heard today how the Signs of Safety framework is improving how we speak to children and young people. So I'm just wondering, is there the capacity for staff to be able to undertake this meaningfully for all our children and for children of various ages and abilities also?
Thank you, Dave. I think as well, just before you answer it, I think this sort of follows on as well from CUMTAF giving a voice to the voiceless as well. So I think it'd be interesting to hear what our other partners are doing in regards to that as well.
Yes, thanks, Chair. As we've already alluded to, yes, the Signs of Safety framework does give staff the tools and the ability to, you know, hear the voice of the child in a much more effective way than maybe we've looked at historically. In terms of capacity, we've already talked about the levels of demand that we're seeing that are coming into children's social care and its statutory partners as well at this moment in time. But we're very committed to kind of looking at caseloads within our children's social care teams at this moment in time. We're committed to keeping that at around 20 cases to enable staff to be able to do meaningful direct social work with children and families. We want it to be under that, and that's what we will be working towards. And having that level of caseload will enable staff to have enough time, enough space, enough capacity to deliver the work in the ways that we want it to be then. It will mean us having to work with partners then and with other agencies and with our early help colleagues as well in terms of where support best sits for children and families as well. And again, a lot of the work that we're doing again regionally around threshold and in terms of what constitutes social care support, what constitutes early help support and universal support will also assist with some of that level of demand that comes in. But the whole premise here is ensuring that our social work teams have enough space, enough capacity to do direct work and meaningful direct work with children and families in line with the Signs of Safety framework. So we're absolutely committed to that in terms of the caseloads that we're going to be working towards within children's social care moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that, no, sorry, that's fine, Della. Does that answer your question as well, Councillor Hughes?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Fantastic, lovely. So if there aren't any other questions, I do have one last question before we finish up. Going through the plans, etc., that we've got and the working practices that we have, are all the partners confident about the deliverability of this plan, and are you content with the partnership working that's happening as well? Thank you. Who would like to go first as well? Claire?
I don't mind going first. I think partnership working in Bridgend is a real strength. I think we've been through a lot together in Bridgend over the last number of years. We have high challenge, high support. I would say we are absolutely committed to acting on data and evidence, and you know those positive working cultures. And I think you've heard a lot about that this morning, particularly in terms of the MASH and that co-location model being fundamental to that. I think in terms of the deliverability, I think we're all very resource constrained as organisations. So there is, you know, lots of risks and issues that we face as organisations in trying to ensure that we prioritise the priorities, and safeguarding, you've heard this morning, is a priority for all three organisations on the call, and for both education and for social services within the local authority. But we're challenged as never before, aren't we, from a resource perspective? So, you know, professionally, do I think that is going to impact? I think it, of course, is going to impact, you know, in terms of keeping the scale of preventative services that we've got in place whilst you know, safeguarding and protecting in the way that we need to. And that will be a message, I think, in every local authority and probably all partner agencies at the moment. What it means that we've got to do is what you've heard from partners here this morning. We've got to make sure that we bring forward really robust plans about how we can be sustainable in the context within which we're operating to deliver on the priorities set out. But yeah, I think we're being challenged as never before, really, as a public services.
I absolutely do not disagree with you. Clayton?
Yeah, so first of all, I've absolute confidence in the partnership and the multi-agency working. I have confidence in the 100% ambition we are straining every sinew to deliver on this plan. I witness every partner being highly motivated to do so, but the context is challenging, and I want to reiterate what Claire has said. But I am quietly confident, but not complacent, that we are going to get there, because what we will see, we have got a heavy load to carry, but we are all willing to lift together on that issue. And you know, I will say this and reiterate, you know, across the 7 local authorities, we have really strong relationships here, very comfortable to disagree, very comfortable to challenge, to share information, which is really important. We talk about sharing information which may be relevant to the child's lived experience, but also share information that can be quite sensitive about partnership data. We talked about, I think Dave just mentioned, caseloads, and it's really important we understand that and feed that into the regional safeguarding board. So I am quietly confident, but not complacent, because we've got challenging context, but we are, you know, as Claire outlines, absolutely committed to delivering.
Thank you. And Claire O'Keefe?
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat everything my colleagues have said, because I totally agree with all of it. In terms of partnership working, I've seen, I don't say improvements, I think our relationships have definitely developed, and I totally take on board what Claire said. They're more like family at the moment. I think I spend more time with them over the last 2 years than I have any of our other partners across the other 2 local authorities. But obviously, we as an organisation, same as the others, is the challenges in terms of the financial constraints, the impact that's going to have on resources. And as an organisation, we've got a restructure that's quite unsettling at the moment. I think I'm confident that safeguarding is a priority as part of that restructuring. So, hopefully we will give those additional resources that we need. And we've certainly obviously got tight plans in place to make sure that we meet all of our obligations. And like other colleagues, I am confident we'll get there, but I hate to say it, we're still recovering from that dreaded C. So who knows what's round the corner, but I think we're certainly working in the right direction. I'm confident about that, and we're already starting to see improvements. And I would say, it's massively improved just in the last couple of years. I think we had the terrible child practice review, that child death, and I think that brought us all together in a very different way of working. So certainly within Bridgend, we've got really strong working relationships. I'm seeing the positive outcomes of that.
Thank you. I don't think you're wrong in saying that the Health Board has borne a significant brunt from the back of COVID as well. I know personally from family members who work within health boards, not this one, but others, the stress and the strain that every single practitioner was put under, I know that has been significant. So going forward, I know that the recovery from that is difficult. And I know that from what we've heard here, there is significant strides being made to change those challenges around into positives. So that's heartening to hear as well. So please keep going. I know it's difficult. I really do know it's difficult. But I'm glad to hear that the partnership working seems to be working really quite well. I think that's really, really positive. So thank you very much for coming and telling us about that, frankly, because it is good to hear good news at long last. So thank you. And it's good to hear that positive changes have been made. I think that's the important thing as well within all this, because I know that we've faced challenges with agency staff, and I know that we've heard that today from ComTAF as well, and I know that changes are being made in regards to that with our Grow Your Own and things like that. And I know that South Wales Police are making significant changes as well. So it is good to hear that those challenges are being spoken about, challenged within the context of the partnership, and then brought to the table and changed. That is the positive out of this, and that's how we go forward, and that's how we change things for the better for our residents. So thank you. I can only commend you on that. So thank you. Are there any other questions from councillors at all, please? No, it doesn't appear there are. So with that, if there's no further questions, I'd like to thank our invitees, and if you wish to leave, you may do. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.